Hey everyone, welcome to Mom Talks. I'm your host Laura with St. Louis Children's Hospital. I am actually in the emergency department with two of our awesome emergency nurses. This is Jessica and this is Angela. We are so excited about Mom Talks. We think this is going to be a really important series for moms, dads, grandpas, grandmas, whoever has a small child in their life or a teenager. This is going to be really informative. So our first series as part of Mom Talks is There's a First Time for Everything. And that's why we're in the emergency department. Regardless of how careful you are, how many vitamins, influenza, whatever it is, your child might have, the emergency department might be in your future. I have 3 small boys. I am a frequent flyer. So I thought it would be best to talk to the experts, and it's actually Emergency Nurses Week. So we're getting to celebrate in the best way possible by being here in the emergency department with our friends, just to learn more about the process and what might bring you here. So what might bring you here to the emergency department?
Well, there's many things. So anything from ear infections, cough, asthma, respiratory stuff, broken bones, belly pain, vomiting, anything. Even extreme.
It runs
car
the
accidents,
extremes.
anything, yes.
Car accidents as well. So traumas, not just the bumps and the bruises, but the big bumps
Correct,
and bruises.
yes.
Okay. So how many kiddos are we seeing a day?
We see about 145 patients per day, and we average per year about 53,000 patients. And we surge up to about 200 patients in respiratory season, so it can be a bit busy when you get here when flu is active in the community, and also any respiratory viruses. We do see 180 to 200 during that time.
What are surge seasons? What is
So
that?
when the kiddos are back at school and they all are around each other and they get some respiratory virus, so whether you have asthma and you're getting a runny nose and a cough and it brings you to the ER, but also they're passing around viruses around at school. So
Germ factories.
Flu is a big one that we're waiting to see here soon. So when we do hit flu season, we do get busier in the emergency department.
Flu shots. Get them.
Yes,
So you don't
please.
have to hang out with other friend Angela. So it sounds like asthma and breathing is a big one that's going to send kiddos. When do you know it's time to come to the emergency department, or how do you decide what's the best for your kiddo?
So I think there's different options. So whenever a patient, like if they have asthma, a lot of doctors do really good with talking to the families and teaching them to watch for any type of retractions. So like pulling in the belly, pulling in the rib cage, pulling up at their neck, or if their nose is going in and out, things like that are things to watch for. You can also call your pediatrician. Usually they have like an on-call person that you can talk to, and they can kind of walk through it and see if it's something that you need to come to the ER for. Those are the big main things to kind of watch for.
Okay.
And when to come.
I know with one of my kiddos, he was having like a stomach virus, but we weren't sure what it was. And I called the nurses triage line that we have at Children's, and it's like a 24-hour service where basically they were like, it could, with going through his symptoms and talking through everything, and they're like, it could very well be his appendix. You should come into the emergency department. So there are resources to kind of vet how and what you need to do. My 6-year-old, the very first time we came to the emergency department, we were at a birthday party and he was laying on his belly, playing on the floor, and a kiddo ran by and accidentally kind of knocked him in the back of the head, and he split his chin open, just about as wide as my thumbnail, and we were like, oh man, and it wasn't like profusely bleeding, but it was like, oh, that looks brutal. And so then, of course, all the moms at the birthday party gathered around, and we were all like, do we go? Do we stay? Is the stitches? I don't know. Do we glue it at home? It's kind of like on his face. So we're like, what do we do? What do we do? And finally I decided, okay, we're just going to go to the emergency department. And he did end up getting glued shut, basically. But with it being on his face, we had a plastic surgeon come down and visit with us and kind of say, like, yeah, it's probably a good thing you came so it didn't glue crooked and have issues later. But I mean, so is that pretty common that, yeah, you might think you might need stitches, but really it's glue, or maybe it's not even that, or, should you feel stupid about it? Because then you're like, oh my gosh, am I like the crazy weirdo who's here? Like, does that?
No, not at all. So it happens a lot. So they can kind of vary just depending on where they're at on your body. So you can have cuts anywhere in your arms, your legs, your hands, your head, your face, and it just kind of depends on where it's located at. If they need to glue it or stitch it, or if it's in your head, like sometimes they'll just staple it. So it just kind of depends, and like you said, we have
That goes
plastics.
over really well.
On call 24/7. We also have our ENT, which is at ear, nose, and throat. So if it's something on their face, like sometimes they'll come down, and they'll be able to fix that up too. But our physicians also do a great job, and they do a lot of sewing, so they suture those clothes too. So our physicians are very well versed with that and can handle that too.
So kind of talk me through, so you decide you have to go to the emergency department. How do you get here? What are the forms of how to get to children's emergency
So
department?
you can come in an ambulance, or if you come in a car, you will come to our front drive and you'll be greeted by valet. And you'll go through our security and be greeted by our triage nurses and medics, who will then ask you some questions and take your child's blood pressure and heart rate and get a respiratory rate, and then a little check-in, and then you'll be seated in the waiting room, and then you'll come back to the room where you'll be greeted by your nurses and your physicians in the back in the emergency department.
Okay, so talk me through registration a little bit, because I know on the website, on SDLchildrens.org, we've got a Precheck. What does that all entail, and how does that maybe help you time-wise? Because that's always something we're concerned about, right? Like, we don't want to be waiting. We know our child needs help, but how can we help ourselves?
We do have on the website that you can sign up for an appointment in the emergency department, so it will give you times that are available, and so if you do that, when you come in within 15 minutes of your appointment time, we will see you in the emergency department triage, and then you'll be coming back to the back.
I know I've done it. One of the other kids fell off a water slide and got a concussion, knocked out cold, and we drove ourselves here, and while I was driving, my husband checked us in online, and it was a pretty quick process. So very helpful in just kind of knocking out a couple of those introductory questions. So just something to think about for sure. So you do your triage, they ask you the questions. How do you know how fast you're gonna get back here? Because we talked about surges, right? So some days you might be one of 3 here. Some days you might be one of 40. I mean, at any given time, how many beds do we have back here?
We have 33 beds.
33 beds. So how do you know, or how long should you expect to wait?
So it just kind of depends on the season. So like she was saying, if it's a surge season, you could be anywhere from, it depending on, you could be as quick as 5 minutes, whereas you can be up to 3-4 hours, just kind of depending on that respiratory season, how it's going, or if it's a big trauma time, like if there's ice outside and there's a bunch of car accidents, that can kind of hold up things too. So we move as quick as we can through them by taking the best care and making sure everybody has a thorough assessment. So sometimes you may have to wait, but we promise we will get to you and get you seen right away.
So if I'm out there and I've waited for an hour and I feel like, oh my gosh, are we ever going to get back there, or like they're in a lot of pain, what do I do?
So you can come back up to the triage desk. There's also a medic up there that can also check you out and see if there's anything going on. They can retake your vitals. They can send you to one of the triage nurses also, who can totally recheck you and see if they need to push you back quicker.
Got it. So when I get checked in, am I allowed to give my child snacks? Because this was a big one. The 3-year-old was like, I need a snack, and I wasn't allowed to. So when does that happen, and why?
We ask that you wait till you go in the back and see the provider, and then they'll let us know if you can have something to eat or drink. If it's an emergency and you need something sooner than that, then we always ask you to go to the triage nurse, who can talk to our providers.
Crackers,
Crackers
water.
or water.
Got it. Because they were saying that one of our kiddos couldn't have a snack because he might have to have surgery, and so they were trying to make sure that bellies are empty.
Yeah, it's best not to have anything in the triage area.
Yeah, so something to think about while you're on the drive. Just mentally preparing yourself that snacks might not be an option. Okay, so you make it past triage, you're done waiting, they bring you back. So we want to show you what one of these rooms look like, so you kind of know what to look for, right? So I think we're going to go into this, and I think this is a good time to point out that we have a theme. What's not to love about a theme? So everything down in the emergency department is animals, right?
It is.
So it's very kid friendly. It's very just warm and welcoming, as much as we can make it. So there's elephants and lions and all kinds of stuff around. And again, I think that's just one of the advantages to coming to a pediatric hospital. But there are other options when you're going to emergency departments that might have pediatric specific emergency staff on site. So we work with MOBAP, we work with Christian. In Illinois, it's at Shiloh. So there are other options and resources if you cannot make it to children's. I just want to throw that out there for pediatric feel and appropriate care. All right, so we're going into room number 5. Lucky 5. Okay, so you get admitted, you get brought back here. A team member will meet you. Kind of tell us what's in the room. Lots of buttons that I'm not going to touch. So what is all this, and does this apply to everybody or just sometimes?
So there's a mixture of things in here, so we want to make sure we're always prepared for anything that can come into any room. So in a basic room, we have in our carts, there are different supplies in there. There's specimen cups, there's extra suction stuff in there, there's thermometers, there's pulse oxes to make sure you can check vitals. Anything like that is all in there just so they can assess the patient. We also have, in case someone is sick and they're vomiting, we also have emesis basins that are up in the cabinets. There's we have airway equipment just in case, no matter what is going on with the patient, there's always a potential that you may need airway equipment. So there's a box full of every size.
I think it's important to note that this is tiny people. Very tiny little babies, all the way up until this adult, I would assume like teenager, junior high type age, that they have these things. And I would assume not every hospital has the tiny people stuff handy, right?
Yes, we have anything from the tiniest of all people to adult size. We get parents who unfortunately are here with their child and they may get sick,
tiny.
And so we can take care of them too.
So tiny little blood pressure cuff for itty bitty. Oh, and it even says it on it. Little bitty arms. Oh, I think we have a question.
So we do have one question. So
is it about how tiny this is? My goodness.
So Stacy is asking how she can make an appointment.
Oh, that's a great question. Do you guys want to fill that one?
Sure. You go on to the St. Louis Children's website into the emergency department tab, and then there's a button there that you press, and it'll walk you through the steps.
I think it even says like skip the wait, and it might even be on the homepage. We actually just redid our website, so definitely peruse, find it, and you'll see where it says, I think it's like a big blue square, and it says skip the wait. And I think you can pick which hospital you're looking to come to. Children's is obviously one of them, and then you pick the time range, and then it'll ask you a couple of questions about your child's age.
It'll ask what's
symptoms.
going on.
Yeah, you can say like possible appendicitis or vomiting uncontrollably. That's a fun one to type in. So yeah, great question. All right, so we'll kind of go through the size of things. What else is in this room that's kind of scary new things that your kid's gonna probably be pretty overwhelmed too? And you as a parent, I mean, it's terrifying. This is the nicest, worst place to be sometimes, but you're in good hands. So what else are we looking at?
So this is our monitor where we take vital signs, but it can make a lot of beeping noises, so it could be a little scary for kids when they come in and they're getting their vital signs taken. We also have an overhead light here, so if they are getting, like we talked about the cut repair earlier, there might be a bright light in their face, so that's overhead. We have suction on the wall and also our oxygen on the wall, which can make noises if we're using it. And then over here we have equipment that the doctors are using to look in eyes and ears and throats. And
I would demonstrate them right now, but I'm pretty sure I'm not supposed to touch anything.
And then also we have all the airway equipment up on the head of the bed. Like Angela said, we're prepared to take care of anything, and we always want to be ready for it if there's a decompensating patient in the room. So we have all of our equipment here.
Okay. And TV.
And TV.
You get to watch TV.
Yes, TV.
It's not closed circuit TV. It's actual normal TV. I can attest to this. So I watched The Big Bang Theory for like an hour while we sat here. I mean, that's what you do. And then where's the little control thing? There it is.
Yes.
All right. Buttons. Again, I'm not going to touch them because I'll probably get in trouble. But this is how we find our friends.
Right.
Yes.
So again, if you're sitting here and you're like, where is everybody? Because kind of what's the process? Like once you get back here, it's like, okay, here we are. Now what?
So once you're back here, it just depends on how quickly you come back. Your nurse may actually be ready for you walking straight into the room with you. It may take just a couple minutes while they read over your chart. It just kind of depends. Registration will also come in the room and meet you back here again to fully register you, so you do not have to do that process out front. Kind of saves you some time out there for them to come back here and do that. You can also, depending on what you're here for, if you're here and you need some x-rays, like if you have an hurt arm, leg,
So we don't do
or anything like
x-rays
that,
in the room.
We have-
Only on critical patients will we
Got
do
it.
them in the room.
Okay.
But we can
Imaging's
take you,
like right.
yes, it's
It's
just
in
in
the
the
I
back
get my
hallway.
bearings right down the hall that
Yes,
way, right?
just in the back hallway. So they can come and get you in the meantime, take you for your x-rays that are ordered while you're in triage. There's our medics that can come in and they can bring you medicine if medicine was ordered while you were in triage. Also, we have standing orders that allow us to give pain medication or order x-rays while we're out in triage to help
Okay.
expedite care for the patient too. So those are different people that can meet them in the room, and then of course your physicians are going to come see you too, so your doctors will come see you and assess you, just depending on, like I said, if it's a surge season it may take just a little bit longer, but they are in pretty quickly though to see you and assess you and start your care and get things moving.
And a quick reminder to submit your questions if you have any. I mean, I cannot talk about how qualified these ladies are and how much we want to help. So by all means, please submit your questions. Now's a great time to ask.
Sure, we do have one question. Does the hospital offer interpretations for other languages?
Excellent question.
So they do. We have a video interpretation iPad, and if the language is not on that iPad, we have interpreters that come into the hospital.
And then we can video conference with
Yeah,
some of them
That's
too.
on the iPad.
On the
That's-
iPad,
yes,
so
we
it's
do.
all video
Mhm.
conference. I think I heard at one point we were up to 80 languages that we have seen and helped and talked. I mean, the list goes on. Spanish, Chinese, Japanese, Korean. I mean, the list goes on and on. So absolutely having those services, because I would think those translations could get kind of scary when you're talking about medical things that, even if English is your first language, can be really scary and hard to understand. What are some of the most popular questions you guys get here?
I would think, how long is the wait?
Yes.
A lot of times, so that's why you want to.
That's the
Wait
main
time,
question.
okay,
So-
noted.
And as Angela said, we have many specialists in the hospital too. So if, depending on what your child's here for, the wait can be a little bit longer because you'll see multiple doctors, and then multiple specialty services will come here. We're a level 1 trauma center, as we talked about. So we have those specialties here 24 hours a day that are able to be here at the bedside to help take care of your child.
So when Alex got his concussion, we were seen by neuro, we were seen by ortho, we got seen by imaging, and then we had a really awesome resident from the emergency team who was here. And it felt like I was answering a lot of the questions a few times, but I think that's because it's a multiple disciplinaries, right? Busy place. Real live stuff happening here, folks. So do parents ever express, like, I feel like I just answered this question, but there's a purpose, right?
Right. So the physicians will ask a lot of the same questions as the nurses in the back, and also the nurses in triage. And that's just to make sure we're not missing anything. We want to make sure that we have the questions answered. Sometimes you're frazzled, your kid's not feeling well, and they come in the front door and maybe you missed something or you forgot to tell them something that's important that'll help with the care.
Yeah.
So that's why the questions are asked sometimes multiple times by different people. But sometimes we try to meet actually in the room if we can together. Sometimes the physicians and the nurses will come in together so they can ask the questions together, so you don't have to keep answering the same.
I definitely know, like, when they were asking all the questions about Alex, it was like, when was the last time he ate? And I was like, oh, I think it was like noon. Yeah, it was totally noon. And then it was like, oh wait, no, he had popcorn and it was like 3. And you remember things, and all of a sudden he started acting kind of weird, just not himself. And it was like, oh, this is a whole new situation, and we've started from scratch. I think we've got another question.
We do have another question. So is there a number to call if it's not life-threatening to ask if you should go to the ER?
Oh, good question.
It is our answer line nurses are able to help field that question. We can get the number to post on this Facebook
We'll
post.
put it on we'll definitely put it in the comments.
And also your pediatrician, you can always call your pediatrician too.
Or we're not close enough.
We're not close enough.
And that is up to bed.
We didn't mention too about how we have child life specialists here in the department. So we have child life specialists, so they help to provide just distractions to the kids if we're doing any interventions on your kid's nervous. That we do have them 12 hours a day, and then we have social work in the department 24 hours a day.
So what do they use for distractions?
They use iPads. They have fun
We love
lights.
the iPad.
They have search and find.
Bubbles. Yes. Music. They will go on, like, a lot of the teenage boys, the big thing is like YouTube.
Nice.
So they'll go on YouTube and they'll play videos for you.
And this is all while you guys are doing your thing
Yes.
to try and minimize the scary.
Yes.
I mean, I don't
The
know
distraction,
how
yeah.
the distraction to it. Very nice. And then social work is available for questions, resources.
And resources, questions, support of families, so they're here 24 hours a day.
Very nice. Very nice. What else can we talk about? What else haven't we touched on? I think we've talked about the reasons that we're coming, who's going to be here, who's your resources here. Don't forget to submit those questions. We're happy to help, of course. But I think this is really helpful just because this is one of the scariest experiences that families go through. It's very stressful and people react to stress in different ways, and sometimes that way can be agonizing and you just want your kiddo to feel better. But it's nice to kind of see the process and to know where you're going to be at and who you're going to talk to. So thank you guys so much for your time. Thank you for all the awesome questions. A reminder that our next episode of Mom Talks is going to be next Friday. We are going to be at 11 o'clock as always. We're actually going to be at the Children's Specialty Care Center doing the first time your child has to have minor surgery. So another really awesomely scary experience for a lot of people, but something super common with ear tubes and just general procedures of setting bones and things like that. So we will actually be in surgery next week, so we'll get a nice walkthrough of what that experience is like through registration and seeing what their rooms look like and why you might use them as a resource as well. So that's what we're here for. So thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for the questions, and we'll see you next week.